Truistery Vibes warmly welcomes all our beloved listeners. We're so glad to see you again in our familiar time slot.
Today,
Truistery Vibes brings you a brand new story, one that we hope will touch your heart and stay with you. As you listen, feel free to leave a comment sharing the quote or moment that left the deepest impression on you. Wishing you a wonderful and meaningful listening experience. Harper Sinclair awoke before dawn to the soft patter of rain against her apartment window. The gray Seattle sky mirrored the uncertainty in her heart. At 26, she had imagined her life unfolding on her own terms, finishing grad school, launching a career in graphic design, maybe traveling across Europe one day. Instead, she found herself in a small studio apartment overlooking Lake Washington, scrolling through job listings on her laptop at 5:30 a.m., while an even more daunting task loomed: appeasing her mother's relentless pressure to settle down. Elaine Sinclair, 54, was the kind of mother who believed that a daughter's ultimate purpose was to marry well and start a family. Every morning, without fail, she sent Harper a barrage of texts. "What time is your date today? Have you picked out an outfit yet? Don't be late. He'll think you're not interested." Elaine's voice on voicemail was equally insistent. "Harper, sweetheart, you're not getting any younger, and I worry about you living all alone up there. You need to meet good men before your biological clock runs out." Harper sat up, rubbing her temples. She loved her mother dearly, but some days, the expectations felt like an anchor dragging her under. Her cursor hovered over an email subject line: interview request, creative intern position at Cascade Studios. She imagined telling Elaine, "Mom, I got a real job offer," but even that triumph would be overshadowed by the next reminder: "Have you thought about what ring size you are?" Downstairs, the smell of French roast coffee drifted up the stairwell. Elaine had woken early to brew a pot in the shiny red espresso machine Harper had bought her as a housewarming gift last year, a gift now repurposed as another tool of matchmaking. The clink of ceramic mugs and the splash of milk into coffee punctuated her mother's cheerful humming. Harper could almost hear Elaine's invisible checklist ticking away: brew breakfast, buy new dress, schedule 2 dates for Saturday. By 6:15 a.m., Harper descended to the kitchen, dressed in worn workout leggings and a loose sweatshirt. She sipped her black coffee slowly, stealing glances at her reflection in the dark window. Her hair was pulled back into a casual ponytail, hardly the glamorous look Elaine demanded for date night. The kitchen table was strewn with glossy magazine pages showing women in cocktail dresses, alongside a neatly folded burgundy sheath dress and a stack of cash. Elaine looked up from her latte and beamed. "Good morning, pumpkin. I picked this dress for you. It's from that boutique in Capitol Hill you liked. It's sophisticated, but still youthful. Your date is Derek Lawson, 29, works in finance at Russell Investments. Tall, dark hair, blue eyes, he's a catch. Now go try it on, sweetie." She slid the dress across the table, then pressed $200 into Harper's hand. "And here's some spending money. He's taking you to Canlis tonight. Be sure you look perfect." Harper forced a polite smile, her heart pounding. "Thanks, Mom. I appreciate it." Inwardly, she cringed. Canlis was one of the city's finest fine dining spots, and she'd worn out her only nice dress months ago. The burgundy sheath was 2 sizes too small, and Harper suspected Elaine had splurged to justify another shopping trip. But Elaine was unstoppable when it came to her matchmaking campaigns. As Elaine hummed a show tune from her college days, Harper retreated up the narrow staircase to her bedroom. She closed the door behind her and stared at the dress hanging on the back of the door. A tailored sheath with a plunging neckline and hip-hugging silhouette. Totally not her style. She imagined herself slinking across the canvas dining room in that dress, feeling exposed and out of place. Derek would definitely notice if she barely fit into it. She peeled off her sweatshirt and ran a hand through damp hair. The dress fabric felt stiff under her fingers. An internal battle unfolded: yield to her mother's wishes once more, or assert her own rhythms and accept Elaine's inevitable disappointment. Part of Harper felt guilty, Her mother had raised her single-handedly after her father's early passing. Elaine worked 2 jobs to keep the rent paid and Harper in school, sacrificing her own social life. Now Elaine simply wanted to see her daughter happy and secure. But happiness, to Harper, did not mean arranged dinners and forced smiles. She longed for authenticity, a life in which her choices were her own, and her self-worth was not pegged to marital status. She slipped out of her leggings and tried on the burgundy dress, wincing as the zipper creaked up. It hugged her too tightly at the waist and gaped at the bust. She tugged it closed, stepping out to examine herself in a full-length mirror. She looked like someone else's idea of success, not hers. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Elaine. "Are you ready? Be downstairs in 10. Love you." Harper tapped out a one-word reply almost. Her mother's persistent, loving pressure weighed on her chest like an iron band. With a sigh, she grabbed a hair straightener and forced her damp hair into sleek waves, just enough to satisfy Elaine's taste. But not so perfect that she felt like a mannequin. Back downstairs, Elaine glowed with pride. "You look stunning, sweetheart. That dress is made for you." She snapped a photo and sent it to her friend's group chat with a heart-eyed emoji. Harper plastered on a fragile smile and slipped her arms into the sleeves, fumbling with the zipper as Elaine fussed with her collar. "Tilt your chin up." "Yes, that's it. Now smile, look confident." Harper's reflection in Elaine's eyes was half grateful, half trapped. She nodded, brushed imaginary lint off her shoulders, and picked up the clutch Elaine had provided. "Mom, can you drive me to the car?" Elaine's face lit up. "Of course, darling. I'm so proud of you. This is going to be wonderful." She handed Harper an umbrella as they stepped into the drizzle and locked the front door. On the walk toward the car, Harper hesitated by the gate. The wet pavement reflected streetlights in tiny pools. She glanced at her phone again. No new job updates, just texts from Elaine tracking her ETA. She inhaled deeply, tasting the cold air. This was her reality now, a delicate dance between honoring her mother's devotion and carving out her own path. As they drove through the quiet Seattle streets, Elaine chattered excitedly about Derek's impeccable background, their mutual college alumni network, and the complimentary dessert he arranged at Canlis. Harper stared out the window, watching neon signs flicker on wet asphalt. She wondered if this date might finally change her mind, or if it would simply confirm that marriage wasn't on her timeline yet. In her heart, Harper knew she had to keep trying, for her own sake. But tonight, she would play along. She would smile, make polite conversation, and hope that somewhere between the soufflés and sommelier, she might find an unexpected spark. And if she didn't, well, she would still have her own dreams to chase at dawn's first light. With the restaurant's glowing marquee ahead, Elaine squeezed Harper's hand and whispered, "You've got this, honey." Harper nodded, straightened her shoulders, and stepped out into the Seattle rain, determined to face another chapter in her journey, on her own terms, even as she navigated the well-meaning expectations of a mother's love. Harper slid out of the car and into the warm, amber glow of Canlis's entrance. The restaurant's mid-century modern facade, with its sweeping low roof and lantern-lit pathway, promised a special evening. Elaine had beamed proudly as she paid the valet. Tonight was, in her mind, Derek's grand introduction to Harper Sinclair. Derek Lawson appeared at the hostess station 5 minutes late, impeccably dressed in navy slacks and a charcoal blazer, his crisp white shirt perfectly pressed. He greeted Harper with an overly enthusiastic smile and an outstretched hand. "Harper, right? Great to finally meet you in person. Sorry I'm a bit late. I had to finish up at the office." He glanced at his watch. "I'm glad you could make it." Harper returned his handshake and offered a polite grin. Inside, her stomach knotted. She had prepared her small talk script, art school anecdotes, recent freelance projects, but now that he stood before her, she felt unexpectedly tongue-tied. A host led them to a cozy booth overlooking the lake. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the dark water shimmering under Seattle's moonlit sky. A sommelier offered them wine lists. Derek nodded at the most affordable red on the menu, a 2018 Cabernet at $58 a bottle. "This one looks good," he said, tapping the menu. "It's well-reviewed." Harper hesitated. Canlis was known for extraordinary wines. Some bottles nudged four figures. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Sounds great," she said, hiding her surprise at his frugality. As the sommelier departed, Derek folded his menu and leaned forward. "I'll pick up the tab," he announced. "But I do budget every month, so I'll reimburse you half by Venmo if that's okay." He offered her a professionally polite smile. Harper's cheeks warmed. "Oh, no. I'd rather you cover it all," she protested. "You invited me." Derek shook his head. "I always split everything on the first date. That way there's no expectation or awkwardness later. I think it's fair." He pulled out his phone and opened an app labeled Budget Buddy. He scrolled through a meticulously organized spreadsheet that detailed his rent, groceries, utilities, and date night allowance. Harper set her jaw. She had encountered frugal men before, but this level of penny-pinching felt clinical. She tried to steer the conversation toward art installations and design trends, but Derek kept pivoting back to cost analysis. "Did you know the average American spends $6,000 a year dining out? I'm trying to keep mine under $3,000. I'm tracking it closely." She sipped her water. The waiter arrived with an amuse-bouche of smoked salmon and dill on a single cracker. Derek made a show of dividing the cracker in half with a precise paring knife, mechanical, almost rehearsed. Harper forced a small laugh. Throughout the first course, spring pea soup decorated with edible flowers, Derek commented on ingredient costs and seasonal price fluctuations. "Sugar snap pea spiked after last month's frost," he noted. "I always watch farmers' market trends." Harper's spoon hovered midair. She stared at the Doris Duke, approved decor, searching for an escape. For the entree, Derek selected the chicken roulade instead of the restaurant's renowned halibut. "Chicken simpler," he explained. "Better protein-to-cost ratio. Plus, I checked Yelp reviews. The chicken gets solid marks." He glanced at his watch before every bite, as if he had a timed spreadsheet to finish. Harper barely tasted the tender chicken. She felt tense, uncomfortable, constricted. She recalled Elaine's encouraging texts, "You're doing great. Smile," and fought the urge to text back, "Mom, I'm drowning in spreadsheets." When dessert arrived, a small plate with lavender creme brulee, Derek tapped the top crust with a spoon, nodding approvingly at the caramelization percentage. "This topping is a 5.3mm layer, which is perfect for balancing sweetness." Harper's appetite vanished. She pushed the plate away. "I'm sorry, Derek," she said gently, "but I don't think we're compatible." Her voice shook slightly. "Our values, financially and otherwise, just feel very different." Derek frowned, surprised. "Different how?" Harper inhaled deeply. "I admire your discipline, but I believe life experiences, travel, art, meals without counting every penny, are worth savoring. I don't want a budget dictating every moment." She met his eyes. "I need someone who understands that spending can create memories, not just numbers." A tense silence followed. The servers hovered discreetly. Derek closed his eyes and leaned back. "I see," he said finally, voice controlled but tight. "I respect that." He handed her half the bill without a word. Harper slid her card into his hand. "Let me pay my share," she insisted, tapping her own. He let her. The transaction silent, embarrassed. They left the table and headed outside into the cool night air. Washington's rain had eased, leaving slick pavements and a glossy sheen under streetlights. Harper wrapped her arms around herself, shivering from more than the damp air. "I'm sorry it went this way," Derek offered awkwardly. "Maybe I misread the vibe." Harper shook her head. "No harm done. Good luck with your budget." She forced a small smile. They parted at the curb. Harper took a step toward the valet stand, then froze as she stepped onto a wet patch. Her heels slipped on the slick stone, and she pitched forward. In an instant, a strong arm caught her around the waist, steadying her. She looked up into the face of a stranger, tall, dark-haired, with kind gray-green eyes. He wore a black peacoat and carried an umbrella over his own head. The softly dripping canopy cast shimmer reflections on his features. Without a word, he eased her upright and brushed a lock of hair from her face. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice warm and calm. Harper's heart raced. "I thank you."
I'm fine.
He nodded and offered a gentle smile. "Be careful. Those heels and whetstone are a dangerous mix." "I will," Harper said, addressing him as if she recognized his voice from a pleasant dream. She reached inside her purse. Thank you. My name is Harper." He tilted his head.
Sawyer.
Sawyer Monroe. They exchanged a look that felt both surprising and familiar, as if two people who should have met long ago were finally introduced. Derek's disappointed glare from the corner faded into the background, irrelevant now. Sawyer closed his umbrella and stepped back. "Take care, Harper Sinclair." With that, he turned and walked away down the rain-slick sidewalk, disappearing into Seattle's night. Harper stood rooted, the echo of his kindness and the sting of her dinner playing together in her mind. She retrieved her phone, but before she could text Elaine, she realized she was smiling real, unguarded, feeling for the first time that life, like the rain, could wash away old expectations and make room for unexpected possibilities. Harper stepped out of canvas into a sudden downpour that felt almost cinematic. Within seconds, the rain transformed Seattle's chic restaurant district into a misty tableau. Headlights pooled in silvery puddles on the pavement, and the lantern-lit entrance glowed warmly behind her as she closed the door. The late evening wind whipped drizzle sideways, turning her hair into a tangled net and plastering her burgundy dress to her skin. She shivered, taking a half step along the curb, tossed her clutch into her shoulder, and tucked her chin against the storm. She was still reeling from Derek's parting comment. His "good luck with your budget" had echoed hollowly as she climbed into the back of her Lyft. This was nothing like the elegant evening her mother had envisioned. Now, soaked and cold, Harper found herself in Pioneer Square, Seattle's historic brick enclave. The hood of her trench coat did almost nothing to keep her dry, and the slick cobblestones beneath her heels felt treacherous. She started carefully down the wet, uneven sidewalk toward her apartment, hoping the short walk would end soon. The neon sign of a dive bar flickered at the corner, King Street Station Lounge, but Harper didn't want another social setting. She just wanted her apartment's dry silence. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a barrage of texts from Elaine, still asking excitedly how the date had gone. Harper resisted replying. The tapping of her heels reverberated against brick facades and echoing archways. Ancient stone walls bore the weight of decades of Seattle rainstorms, and tonight they seemed to lean in, curious witnesses to her misery. A sudden gust scattered leaves across the street. She paused beside an old lamppost, shoulders hunched. Above, the wrought iron lattice of a fire escape cast spiderweb shadows on the sidewalk. The sky was a low, roiling gray, almost black, punctuated by distant thunder. The rhythmic drum of rain on sheet metal roofs and a distant horn from the viaduct created a strange symphony. Harper's heart pounded with adrenaline and cold, and she cursed her choice of shoes, heels that offered a tense glamour, not traction. As she stepped off a curb, her heels slipped on a slick patch. Harper gasped as she pitched forward, arms flailing for balance. In that instant, a firm voice murmured her name. "Harper Sinclair?" She froze, surprised it sounded so authoritative amidst the storm. Then a steady hand grasped her elbow, halting her fall. She looked up into a pair of calm, gray-green eyes. A man stood close, tall, lean, with dark hair damp at the nape, wearing a charcoal peacoat over a crisp button-down shirt. In his other hand, he held a large black umbrella that sheltered them both from the downpour. "Oh, Sawyer," Harper stammered, startled. It took her a moment to realize he had introduced himself when he caught her fall outside the restaurant. His name came back to her like a whisper in a dream. "Sawyer Monroe?" He offered her a gentle smile, his umbrella tilted just enough to protect her. "That's right. I hope I'm not starting off as a stalker. I saw you leave, and I remembered your name from earlier." His voice was warm and steady, like a fireplace in a cozy cabin. Harper's chest tightened. She nodded, drawing in a breath. "Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm fine, thanks to you." She brushed a wet lock of hair from her forehead, leaving a glistening strand. He paused to study her. Seattle weather can be brutal if you're unprepared. These shoes aren't exactly combat boots. He glanced down at her heels, then back to her face with concern. "Are you sure you're okay?" Harper managed a grateful laugh, teeth chattering just a bit.
I'm okay.
Just a little embarrassed. She tucked her hands into the pockets of her coat and exhaled, feeling the immediate warmth of his presence. Sawyer extended the umbrella over both of them. "Walk with me a few blocks," he offered. "I'm heading that direction anyway, toward the light rail station." She hesitated. Accepting help from a stranger was not usually her instinct. Yet something in his calm eyes made the decision easy. "Okay," she said quietly. They set off along the glistening cobblestones, walking side by side under the umbrella's canopy. The night air was cool, scented with rain-washed cedar and distant coffee shops closing for the evening. As they moved, Sawyer kept the umbrella tilted to shield both of them, his arm brushing gently against Harper's. "So," he began, voice low over the rain, "I'm glad I ran into you again. I didn't catch your number earlier. Would you mind if I texted you sometime? Maybe we could grab coffee, properly this time, at a dry cafe?" Harper blinked, her heart lifting. The idea of meeting him again felt like a promise of something bright after a dismal evening. "I'd like that," she replied, pulling her phone from her pocket. She tapped open her contacts and handed it to him. Sawyer entered his name and number, then handed the phone back. She saw Sawyer Monroe pop up on her screen. He locked it and returned it to her, thumb brushing hers for a moment, a spark of warmth in the chill night. He looked relieved. "Thanks. I know this rain doesn't exactly inspire confidence in future plans, but I'd really like to see you again, maybe in something more memorable than a cobblestone slip and a soaked cocktail dress." Harper laughed softly, brushing raindrops from her eyelashes. "Agreed. I owe you a proper thank you. Coffee's my treat." They reached the light rail entrance, an open-air platform with a single bench and glowing digital signs. A train whooshed by, stirring mist in its wake. Sawyer turned to her. "Well then," he said, voice rich with sincerity. "Coffee next time is on me." He raised his eyebrows playfully. "Deal," Harper said, her smile genuine for the first time that evening. He handed her a white business card beneath the umbrella's dome. It read, "Sawyer Monroe, Creative Director, Aurora Design." Underneath, in his handwriting, he'd scribbled, "Harper, text me when you get home safe." Harper slipped the card into her coat pocket. "I will. Thank you, Sawyer." They stood for a moment, rain drumming overhead, neither wanting to break the delicate connection. Then Sawyer lifted the umbrella higher and turned toward the tracks. "Take care, Harper Sinclair." "And you too," she called after him, as he disappeared into the night toward the platform. Harper watched until the train doors closed behind him. The rain had eased to a soft drizzle, and the city lights shimmered in wet puddles. She checked her phone. No messages yet, but in her pocket, the card felt like a small beacon of warmth. She tucked it deeper into her coat and started down the steps toward the bus stop. Heart lighter than it had been all evening. The encounter, brief, unplanned, and uncannily timed, felt like the turning point she hadn't known she was waiting for. The night had transformed from a disaster into the promise of an unexpected new chapter. And as she began her walk home, the echoes of cobblestones and gentle electronic hum of the light rail lingered in her mind, leaving her breathless with anticipation for the next time she would see Sawyer Monroe. Harper Sinclair woke to the chirp of her phone's alarm but lay still for several heartbeats, eyes closed against the scratchy fabric of her throw pillow. The fog of sleep lingered as she reached for her phone and tapped the notifications panel. One red badge glowed over the Cascade Media Group app. With a frown, she opened it and saw the headline. Cascade Media Group announces immediate closure. All employees laid off. Her chest tightened. She'd known the company was struggling, shrinking budgets, postponed projects, but she hadn't believed it would come to this. Harper forced herself out of bed, muscles heavy with shock, and tapped through the email from HR confirming her last day and final paycheck. She scrolled through the list of contact names, her manager, her mentor, even the head of creative development, all now listed as former employees. Across the living room, a framed poster of Harper's graduate showcase, an abstract collage she had poured months into, seemed to mock her optimism. She sat on the edge of her mattress, head in her hands, feeling suddenly hollow. This was the tightrope she had walked since graduation, chasing the elusive dream of a stable design career, only to have the floor give way beneath her feet. She closed her eyes and counted the seconds, willing herself to breathe steadily. A soft knock on the door broke the silence. Harper blinked and stood, smoothing her cardigan. She opened the door to find Elaine, her mother, holding 2 steaming mugs of coffee. Elaine's face was a mask of restrained sorrow and forced optimism. "I saw the email," she said quietly, handing a mug to Harper. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart." Harper managed a small smile. "Thanks, Mom." She clutched the mug. The warmth seeped into her fingers. "It's just, I thought I was finally settling in." Elaine wrapped an arm around her. "You will. This is just a detour." She guided Harper back to the sofa. "But first we find Plan B." They spent the morning clearing out Harper's home office nook, folding up portfolios, boxing up sample prints, and dragging a battered printer to the edge of the hallway for donation pickup. With each item packed away, Harper felt a sense of finality, one chapter closing, another yet unwritten. By noon, Harper had updated her resume and LinkedIn profile. She wrote a concise summary highlighting her 3 years of experience at Cascade, her proficiency in Adobe Creative Suite, and her award-winning graduate project. Then, after a quick lunch of reheated soup, she began scouring job boards: graphic designer, visual production assistant, creative coordinator. Each listing seemed to demand 5, 7, 10 years of experience. Each rejection notice or non-response felt like a punch to the gut. By late afternoon, emails from prospective employers trickled in. "Thank you for applying. We're moving forward with other candidates. We've decided to lapse this position indefinitely. Your portfolio is impressive, but we're seeking a senior designer." Each polite note chipped away at Harper's morale. She took frequent breaks to stare out her window at the calm surface of Lake Washington, willing her confidence to return. As dusk settled, Harper opened Slack to check in with her small alumni group. A message from an old classmate, Maya, lit up her screen. "Maya, hey Harper. Aurora Design Studio is hiring an executive assistant/creative coordinator. Saw your name pop up on LinkedIn. Thought you'd be a perfect fit. DM me if you want details." Harper's pulse quickened. Aurora Design, Sawyer Monroe's boutique studio in Capitol Hill, had always been on her radar as one of Seattle's most innovative agencies. Their minimalist branding, bold campaigns, and high-profile clients in tech and hospitality made them a coveted workplace. Harper hesitated, heart pounding. The role sounded ideal, combining administrative support with creative input. It was literally the intersection of her skills and passions. She messaged Maya immediately. "Harper, thanks, Maya. That sounds amazing. Do you know the application link?" Within minutes, Maya replied with a direct URL to Aurora's careers page and a tip. "Call it Executive Creative Coordinator. On your cover letter, Sawyer digs creative titles." Harper's hands trembled as she clicked through. The job description asked for scheduling and calendar management for the creative director, coordinating studio operations, including budgets and vendor communications, assisting with design mock-ups, proofs, and presentations, maintaining social media, scheduling calendars, and internal documentation. She reread the bullet points. This was more than an assistant role. It was a chance to learn from Sawyer himself, to participate in design strategy, and to contribute her own ideas. It was exactly what she needed. Harper took a deep breath, opened Word, and began drafting her cover letter. "Dear Mr. Monroe, I was thrilled to see Aurora Design Studios posting for an executive creative coordinator. With 3 years of experience at Cascade Media Group, where I managed project workflows, supported senior designers, and led our graduate showcase marketing campaign, I'm confident I can contribute to Aurora's innovative projects while supporting your creative vision. She tailored each sentence to match Aurora's brand voice: concise, energetic, and forward-thinking. She highlighted her success coordinating a pro bono branding project for a Seattle nonprofit, mentioning metrics, increased social media engagement by 35%, and her proficiency in translating creative briefs into polished presentations. She closed with enthusiasm. I would welcome the opportunity to discuss how my organizational acumen and creative sensibility can benefit Aurora. Thank you for your consideration. She attached her resume, portfolio PDF, and a link to her online portfolio site. With a final proofread, she clicked send. Minutes later, her phone buzzed, an automated reply from Aurora Design Studio. Thank you for applying. Our team will review your materials and reach out within 2 weeks. Harper smiled, feeling the first spark of hope in days. That evening, she called Elaine, who had returned from her own night shift at the cafe. Harper recounted the application process, her excitement radiating through the phone line. Elaine listened, then said, "No matter what happens, I'm proud of you for going after it." Over the next week, Harper maintained a disciplined routine, mornings spent on freelance projects for extra income, afternoons following up with contacts and conducting mock interviews with Maya, evenings walking the dog and practicing mindfulness exercises to keep stress at bay. She even designed custom thank you email templates in her free time, perfecting subject lines and concise messaging. Each small task made her feel proactive, instead of trapped in limbo. On day 10 after her application, Harper received an email marked Aurora Design Studio. Her heart pounded as she opened it. Subject: Aurora Design Studio. Interview invitation. Dear Harper, thank you for applying to the Executive Creative Coordinator position. We were impressed by your portfolio and would like to invite you to an in-person interview at our Capitol Hill studio. Please let us know your availability this week. Best regards, Aurora Hiring Team. Harper let out a whoop loud enough to wake her cat, Pepper. She danced around her apartment, costume jewelry jangling. Then, mind racing, she settled down, checked her calendar, and replied with 2 morning time slots. The interview took place 3 days later in Aurora's open-plan loft overlooking Broadway. Polished concrete floors, bright white walls adorned with sleek typography posters, and floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the city skyline. Harper was guided through a glass-walled conference room and offered espresso. Through the glass, she glimpsed Sawyer Monroe, dark hair neatly combed, reviewing mock-ups on an iPad with 2 other designers. Her palms were sweaty when she stepped into the interview room. A panel of 3 greeted her: the studio operations manager, the head of HR, and, at the center, Sawyer himself. He rose, extended his hand, and said, "Harper, thank you for coming in. I'm Sawyer Monroe." His voice was calm, confident, and kind. They dove into questions: how she managed tight deadlines at Cascade, examples of handling vendor communications, her design process, and her strategies for keeping multiple projects on track. Sawyer listened intently, nodding and taking notes. They asked her to walk through a small case study, a brief they handed her, coordinate a hypothetical branding shoot for a local coffee roaster in 1 week. Harper sketched a timeline on a whiteboard, scouting locations, coordinating talent, booking equipment, drafting shot lists. She even suggested social media teaser posts to generate buzz. Sawyer smiled. "I like your approach. You're thorough and creative." They wrapped up with Sawyer asking, "Do you have any questions for me?" Harper had prepared 3 thoughtful questions about Aurora's creative vision, studio culture, and opportunities for professional development. Sawyer answered each with openness and enthusiasm, sharing anecdotes of recent campaigns, his philosophy on mentorship, and the studio's upcoming expansion plans. When they stood to leave, Sawyer extended his hand again. "Harper, thank you. We'll be in touch by Friday." Walking out into the crisp afternoon air, Harper exhaled a deep breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. She took Pepper for a celebratory latte at the cafe down the street, savoring each sip like a victory. Friday arrived with a ping on her phone. Aurora Design Studio. Dear Harper, we're delighted to offer you the Executive Creative Coordinator position at Aurora Design Studio. Welcome to the team. Please review the attached offer letter and let us know if you have any questions. We look forward to working with you. Best. Sawyer Monroe. Harper's jaw dropped. She read and reread the email, tears welling in her eyes. She excelled at keeping a professional facade, but in that moment, she punched the air and cheered like a marathon runner crossing the finish line. Later that day, she called Elaine. "Mom, I got the job," she exclaimed. There was a beat of stunned silence, then Elaine's triumphant cry. "That's my girl. I knew you could do it." Harper hung up, heart soaring. She opened the offer letter, a competitive salary, benefits, paid time off, and a small signing bonus. She highlighted the line about professional development stipend and grinned. Now she could finally attend that advanced typography workshop she'd eyed. That evening, Harper stood in the empty Cascade Media Group office one last time to collect personal items, a framed print of her graduate show acceptance letter, a sleek metal pen engraved with her name, and a small succulent she had nursed for months. She paused at the threshold, pressing her palm to the cool glass wall. A final farewell to the place that had taught her resilience and professionalism. With the succulent in hand and her resume file neatly archived, Harper walked out into the twilight, ready to step into Aurora's brightly lit loft the next morning. The path ahead was still uncharted, but for the first time in weeks, she felt confident in her course. Washington's rain had washed away old doubts, and now, as she navigated toward her new beginning, Harper Sinclair embraced the thrill of possibility that shimmered on Seattle's skyline, her dreams no longer on hold, but unfolding in real time under the watchful guidance of Sawyer Monroe and the open doors of Aurora Design Studio. Harper Sinclair stepped into Aurora Design Studio on a crisp Monday morning feeling equal parts exhilarated and apprehensive. The expansive loft space on Capitol Hill greeted her with polished concrete floors that reflected the soft glow of industrial pendant lights overhead, exposed brick walls adorned with bold campaign art, and clusters of minimalist desks that suggested openness and collaboration. Yet beneath that modern, airy facade lurked a subtle tension Harper could feel in her bones the moment she unpacked her bag at desk C3. Her station, nestled beside a bank of windows overlooking a row of cherry blossom trees, was furnished with dual monitors, a sleek task lamp, and a small succulent Sawyer had placed there on her first day. It should have felt like a fresh start. Instead, it felt like stepping onto a tightly wound spring. Moments after she arranged her notebooks and portfolios, Kendall Hastings glided by, clipboard in hand and phone poised for a quick take of incoming emails. Kendall, 32, and impossibly polished in a navy sheath and heels that clicked on the concrete floors, paused beside Harper's desk. "Sawyer asked me to show you the folder structure," she said, voice smooth and haughty. "All new campaign assets go under current projects. The archive folder is only for completed work. Don't mix them up." She gestured to the neatly labeled directories on the wall-mounted screen, her smile brittle, then continued down the row of desks. Harper managed a nod, pressing her lips together to hold back frustration. She had spent 2 years mastering file hierarchies at Cascade Media Group. She could adapt to this studio's conventions. Still, Kendall's tone felt less like guidance and more like a subtle claim on territory. Determined to prove her competence, Harper dove into her first major assignment, cataloging assets for the upcoming spring campaign of a boutique coffee roastery. She created a new folder labeled 2025_spring_coffee campaign under current projects, food and beverage, uploaded the creative brief in PDF form, imported vendor contact sheets, and arranged moodboard visuals in neatly ordered subfolders. Then she shot Sawyer a quick Slack message. "All assets uploaded for review. Please let me know if you'd like any changes." Satisfied, she left her desk for a morning meeting. An hour later, she returned to discover her 2025_spring_coffee campaign folder buried under archive greater than 2024 campaigns. Her chest tightened. Sweat beaded at her hairline as she opened the drive's audit logs. The timestamp read 10:17 a.m., barely 5 minutes after Kendall had passed her desk for the stand-up briefing. Hands trembling, Harper restored the folder to its intended location, only to find it relocated under Legacy_items by 11:03. With a stifled sigh, she recreated the folder again and flagged IT in Slack. My campaign folder keeps moving to archive. Can you check permissions and audit logs? As she waited for a reply, she replayed Kendall's opening comment in her mind. This wasn't an innocent mistake. Someone was deliberately undermining her work. By Tuesday, Harper had grown cautious. She triple-checked file paths and previewed all her uploads. She arrived at 8:45 a.m., arranged her workspace, and reviewed her calendar. She had a 10 a.m. photo shoot for the coffee roastery at Pike Place, a 2 p.m. wireframe presentation for a tech startup, and a 4 p.m. packaging debrief slated by Kendall herself. Deciding it made sense to block time with Sawyer for the wireframe review, Harper drafted an invite for 2:30 p.m. She clicked send and saw the meeting appear on her and Sawyer's calendars. Triumph washed through her until she noticed the 4 p.m. slot had shifted to 2 p.m., colliding with her newly scheduled review. Her invite had overridden Kendall's meeting. She scrambled to reverse it, but Sawyer caught her eye from inside his glass-walled office, raising an eyebrow she knew meant what happened. Flushing, Harper stammered out an apology when she entered to discuss a vendor timeline. Keep me posted on any conflicts, Sawyer said quietly, and Harper blew out a shaky breath once she was back at her desk. Tuesday afternoon grew more chaotic. Kendall, standing by the coffee station at 12:05 p.m., watched with a faint sneer as Harper distributed orders from the Rolling Stoves taco truck. Harper had sent out a lunchtime poll to the team, vegetarian, gluten-free, no nuts, and placed one consolidated order. Hot carnitas, al pastor jackfruit tacos, and smoky roasted veggie wraps steamed on the courtyard tables. Harper felt a moment of pride as laughter bubbled up among colleagues digging in. Kendall, clipboard clutched to her chest, cleared her throat. Sawyer just asked if we could switch to Seward Park Pizza, she announced. He's meeting the bakery client at 1:30 and said pizza would be easier to eat at that table. She folded her arms expectantly. Harper's heart plummeted. But the team already ordered tacos, she protested softly. Kendall's lips curved into a thin smile. He didn't see the poll. And I couldn't reach you before 11:30. I'm calling the pizza order now. She turned on her heel and stomped back inside. The taco truck chef frowned as he packed up, and half the team muttered about wasted orders. Harper's cheeks burned. She tried to reassure the disappointed group, but the camaraderie had splintered. Midweek, the tension came to a head. On Wednesday morning, Harper awoke feeling 50 shades of under the weather, scratchy throat, low-grade fever, pounding headache, but refused to call in sick. She dressed quickly in business casual layers, sucking a throat lozenge from her purse. By 10 a.m., she slid into her seat and logged onto the first of 3 back-to-back video calls. Each ring rattled her brain. At 1 p.m., Sawyer pinged her Slack. Can you finalize the coffee roastery's packaging mock-ups by end of day? Also, please proof the nonprofit's annual report for our pro bono client. Deadline 5 p.m. Harper's pulse quickened. She typed on it and silenced her phone. Minutes later, Kendall breezed by. You sound awful, she said without concern. Maybe take a half day. I can cover the nonprofit report. The implication stung that Harper's illness was an opportunity to prove herself dispensable. Harper clenched her jaw and kept working. By 2:30 p.m., fever and stress combined into a fog so thick she had trouble locating her cursor. Her chest tightened, and when she tried to lean back, she blacked out for an instant. A warm hand landed on her arm, jarring her consciousness. She opened her eyes to see Sawyer standing over her, face pale with worry. Behind him, the break room was empty, save for the echo of Kendall's heels disappearing down the hall. Sawyer cradled a hot mug of ginger lemon tea. "Harper, you look like you're about to collapse," he said in a low voice. He guided her to a nearby stool, waved his hand at a waiting barista, and whispered her order. "2 teas, one for me, one for her." The barista nodded and moved quickly. Sawyer pressed the mug into her hands, along with a small tin of throat lozenges. Harper sipped the tea, warmth unfurling through her chest. Tears blurred her vision as she realized someone truly cared. Sawyer's coat, dark wool, slightly damp from the light drizzle, hung over her shoulders. He tapped out a message to Kendall. "Please cover Harper's deliverables this afternoon. I'll handle the coffee mock-ups." Harper watched Kendall's Slack notification appear. On it. Even Kendall's tone lacked its usual edge. She understood orders came from Sawyer. He then sent a quick calendar update, shifting the nonprofit report deadline to Friday morning. Harper snapped her laptop closed. Her body felt like lead, her thoughts half captured in a haze. Sawyer crouched beside her. "You need to go home. I've already told IT to prepare your files for Monday, and I'll personally update all deliverables. You get home, rest, and get better." His voice was firm but gentle. Harper could barely speak. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to let anyone down." He shook his head. "You never let anyone down. You did everything you could. Now give yourself a break." He arranged a ride-share on his phone while she texted Elaine, "I'm sick coming home." Then he escorted her downstairs, waiting in the lobby until her car arrived. He handed her an insulated bag with containers of chicken soup from Pike Place Deli and a small thermos of turmeric honey tea. "Your mom asked me to pick these up," he said, a hint of a smile. "She said I was to deliver them personally." Even that smile was an act of kindness that melted away Harper's remaining reservations. At home, Elaine hovered like a concerned general, unpacking the soup and fluffing pillows on the couch. Harper sank into the cushions, cat purring in her lap. Elaine fussed with her blanket and scolded her gently. "Next time you feel like this, call me first. Don't try to be a hero." Harper nuzzled into her mom's embrace, tears of relief staining her cheeks. The weekend passed in a blur of rest, soup, tea, and occasional texts from Sawyer. Checking in, "How are you feeling?" and "No rush on anything, get well." Elaine's voice on the phone was a comforting anchor, and her mother's homemade chicken noodle soup was balm for body and soul. On Sunday afternoon, Harper took a deep breath and previewed her weekend emails. The bakery client's inbox pinged with a message praising the mock-ups she'd completed in her fevered state. Sawyer's quick substitution of deliverables to Kendall and personal oversight had ensured deadlines were met seamlessly. Harper drafted a concise status update. All campaign mock-ups finalized. Report scheduled for Friday review. She hit send and felt the last knot of anxiety unwind. Monday morning, she returned to Aurora with cautious optimism. She arrived before the 9 a.m. stand-up and slid off Sawyer's coat from its hook by her desk. She was braced for Kendall's usual glare or a condescending remark about her absence. Instead, Kendall passed her desk, took a quick breath, and said simply, "Glad you're feeling better." No edge, no sneer, just a neutral acknowledgement. Harper blinked in surprise and managed a small, genuine smile. Before long, she logged into her email to find a note from the bakery client. "Thank you, Harper. The mock-ups are perfect. Excited for next steps." She forwarded it to Sawyer with a short note. "All good. Thank you again for covering me." Sawyer replied within moments. "Fantastic news. Welcome back. Coffee at lunch?" At noon, he met her downstairs with 2 lattes and a protective umbrella. They walked together through light drizzle to a Vietnamese noodle shop, where the fragrant broth and tender meatballs felt restorative. Over steaming bowls, Sawyer asked about her weekend recovery and whether the accelerated deadlines had been manageable. His questions were practical, genuine, and free of the strained formality that Kendall might have preferred. As they returned to the studio, Harper noticed Kendall pausing at the doorway. She stepped forward, met Harper's eye, and offered a nod of respect. "You did good," she said quietly, as if admitting Harper's value to the team. Then Kendall glided past and into Sawyer's office without another word. That small gesture, more than any affirmation, signified Harper's acceptance into the studio's inner workings. Over the next days, Harper found her groove. Files stayed put where she placed them. Lunches became harmonious affairs as the team rallied around her poll results. Calendar invites clicked smoothly into place. Kendall's presence, once a source of dread, now felt like a neutral force rather than an adversarial one. The junior designers sought Harper's input on their templates. Operations staff relied on her clear briefs. And Sawyer praised her organizational finesse in weekly check-ins. Through it all, Sawyer's quiet support remained a steady undercurrent. He personally delivered artisanal coffee when deadlines loomed, sent midday Slack reminders, time for a break, and occasionally stopped by her desk with home-baked granola bars. His actions modeled a leadership style built on empathy, trust, and respect for individual well-being. Aurora Design Studio had shown Harper a new paradigm. An environment where creative intensity coexisted with genuine care and where both achievements and vulnerabilities were met with compassion. On Friday, as the week drew to a close, Harper logged off with a sense of fulfillment. She gazed out at the skyline beyond those floor-to-ceiling windows, where the city's pulse hummed below. The battles she'd fought in that open-plan loft, from the covert folder sabotage to the lunchtime pizza ambush, had transformed her. She had learned resilience, professionalism, and the power of setting boundaries. More importantly, she had discovered that even in a high-octane creative setting, kindness could be a catalyst for growth. Clutching Sawyer's old pea coat draped over her chair, Harper stepped out into the cool evening air, ready for whatever challenges and unexpected acts of care the next chapter would bring. Harper Sinclair ducked under the awning of the Green Door Cafe just as a light drizzle began to fall again. She shook out her hair, its damp waves framing her face, and spotted Sawyer Monroe waiting by a corner table. He stood beneath a vintage street lamp, its soft glow illuminating his thoughtful expression, and held an umbrella at the ready. Even though the rain had paused, he insisted on carrying it as if the memory of drizzle still lingered. They settled into a booth near the fogged window. The cafe's interior was warm with honey-colored light, soft jazz drifting from hidden speakers, and the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee mingling with buttery pastry scents. Hanging plants dripped with moisture from the day's earlier rain, and the low hum of conversation created an intimate cocoon around them. Harper's heart pounded with anticipation. She had been looking forward to this moment all week, ever since Sawyer had extended the invite to meet outside the chaos of their office lives. Maya, the barista whose cheerful face Harper recognized from previous visits, arrived almost immediately carrying a steaming tray. She placed a lavender honey latte in front of Harper and a single-origin Ethiopian pour-over in front of Sawyer. On the house, Maya smiled warmly at both of them. Your usual orders? Saved in my memory. And hey, welcome back after the taco fiasco. She winked, and Harper flushed with a combination of embarrassment and gratitude. Maya's kindness was a reminder that even small communities like this cafe could feel like home. Sawyer thanked Maya, and she retreated to attend other customers. He picked up his mug first, inhaling the deep berry aroma of the roast. Then he lifted Harper's latte, its purple swirls dancing atop silky foam, and took a slow, appreciative sip. Perfect as always, he murmured, setting the cup back down. They spoke about everyday things at first. Sawyer described his latest pitch for a boutique hotel's brand identity, complete with mood board sketches of Art Deco accents and custom lighting concepts. Harper shared her own experiments with hand-lettered typography for a nonprofit's annual report, explaining how tiny kerning adjustments could transform a page's emotional tone. Their conversation flowed easily, peppered with laughter and shared insights, but beneath the easy banter, a current of emotion thrummed between them. Every so often, Harper caught Sawyer glancing at her profile, his gaze lingering like a private caress. When she brushed damp hair back from her forehead, his eyes followed her movement with quiet intensity. The world outside that cafe, the clatter of plates, the shuffle of feet on tile, faded until it felt as though only the two of them existed in that glowing, plant-filled alcove. Finally, Sawyer set down his mug and leaned forward, his forearms resting lightly on the edge of the table. His voice dropped into a hushed, earnest timbre, and Harper's pulse raced. "Harper," he began, using her full name, an intimate touch that made her heart skip. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you since that night under the neon sign at Pike Place." He paused, gathering courage. Harper's hand trembled as she reached for her latte, swirling the foam into gentle ripples. "When I first saw you slipping on those cobblestones, soaked from head to toe," Sawyer continued, voice low, "I thought it was fate that I was there to catch you. But even after that, every conversation we've had, over budgets, over brainstorming sessions, under umbrellas, I've realized I'm not just looking forward to seeing you. I'm thinking about you all the time." Harper's breath caught. She remembered that rainy evening, her disastrous first date, the embarrassingly precarious heels, and Sawyer's comforting presence as he shielded her with his umbrella. She thought of the messages he had sent when she was sick, the lattes he'd left on her desk, the way he had quietly taken on her deadlines so she could rest. All of those moments had felt like secret invitations into his care, but she hadn't known until now that they were leading toward this confession. Sawyer's gaze held hers, unwavering. "I've been falling for you, Harper Sinclair," he said softly. "More than I ever expected, and more deeply than I can fully explain." He reached out and covered her hand with his, warmth radiating through their joined palms. Harper's heart thundered in her chest. Emotions she had kept at bay, curiosity, admiration, a tender longing, surged forward. She closed her eyes, savoring the steady beat beneath his skin. When she opened them, she answered in the only way she knew how. "Sawyer," she whispered, voice trembling, "I feel the same." Relief and joy flooded his features. He rose slowly and extended a hand to her. "Then may I have this dance?" he teased gently, though the cramped space made actual dancing impossible. Harper laughed, the sound mingling with the cafe's gentle hum, and placed her hand in his. He guided her to stand beside the table, and for a moment they simply swayed together beneath the hanging ferns and Edison bulbs. The soft jazz seemed to play just for them, its notes weaving around their shared heartbeat. Then Sawyer dipped his head and brushed his lips to Harper's in a kiss that was at once tender and electrifying. It was her first kiss with him, warm, sweet, the perfect fusion of passion and gentleness, under the soft glow of market lights. When they finally parted, Harper rested her forehead against Sawyer's chest, breathing in the comforting rhythm of his heartbeat. She lifted her head and met his gaze, her eyes shining. "That was," she began, but words escaped her. Sawyer smiled, brushing a damp strand of hair from her cheek. "It's just the beginning," he promised, his voice a soft vow. He slipped an arm around her waist and guided her back to their booth. They resumed their seats, coffee now forgotten in its warmth. Outside, the cobblestones glistened with fresh drizzle, neon signs flickering reflections into glittering puddles. Inside, wrapped in each other's presence, Harper and Sawyer shared quiet laughter and whispered plans for what came next. Long walks along the waterfront, more cafe dates, and the simple joy of discovering each other's worlds. As they finished their drinks and stepped back out into the night, Harper slipped her hand into Sawyer's. Under the soft halo of street lamps and the scent of rain-dampened air, they walked side by side, two hearts aligned beneath the market lights, ready to embark on their new chapter together. Harper Sinclair felt her pulse quicken as she stepped out of the car in front of Evelyn Monroe's elegant townhome in Bellevue. The maple tree in the front yard was just beginning to show spring buds, and the soft afternoon light cast a gentle glow over the manicured lawn. Today was the day her mother, Elaine Sinclair, would finally meet Sawyer Monroe's mother, Evelyn. The two women had exchanged polite phone calls, gift baskets of Northwest apples and artisanal chocolates, and now the moment of truth had arrived. Elaine emerged from the passenger seat first, adjusting her cashmere scarf with a practiced flourish. At 54, Elaine carried herself with confident warmth and just a hint of nerves. She and Harper had driven separately from Seattle, buzzing with anxious excitement. Elaine had spent the morning selecting fresh peonies for the dining table and preparing lemon ginger iced tea. Now she smoothed her blouse and offered Harper an encouraging smile. "Go on ahead, sweetheart. I'll follow in a moment." Harper gave her mother's hand a quick squeeze and walked up the brick pathway. The front door opened before she could reach the knocker. Evelyn Monroe stood there, impeccably poised in a fitted blazer and skirt, her silver hair softly curled. At 60, Evelyn exuded a composed grace, her eyes bright with anticipation. "Harper," Evelyn exclaimed, stepping forward to embrace her daughter's fiancé-to-be. Harper felt the warmth of heartfelt approval and returned the hug, marveling at how natural it felt. Evelyn held her back at arm's length, studying her with a proud smile. "I've heard so much about you," she said gently. "Please come in." Elaine reached the door just then, and the two mothers exchanged a warm, slightly awkward greeting, air kisses on both cheeks. A gentle tap of arms. "Evelyn, it's such a pleasure to finally meet you in person," Elaine said, her southern drawl softening her words. "Your home is lovely." Evelyn guided her inside, murmuring a gracious welcome. In the foyer, the rich scent of peonies mingled with polished wood and the faint aroma of Evelyn's jasmine tea. They stepped into a spacious living room bathed in natural light. A crystal chandelier hung overhead, and framed photographs of Sawyer at various ages lined a side table. Elaine's gaze lingered on one of young Sawyer, perched on his father's shoulders. She felt a pang of tenderness. This was her son-in-law's family, now welcoming her daughter. Evelyn led them to the dining room, where a long table was set with fine china, cloth napkins folded into lilies, and a vase of freshly cut peonies Elaine had brought. "I hope you like lemon ginger," Evelyn said, pouring iced tea into slender glasses. "It's my grandson's favorite, and he says it helps with spring allergies." Elaine smiled appreciatively. "Perfect," she said, accepting a glass. "I've brought some lavender shortbread cookies. I hope that's all right." She presented a tin with a cheerful flourish. Evelyn's eyes lit. "They smell divine. Please have one now." Evelyn offered a cookie to Elaine and another to Harper, who had just arrived with cups in hand. As the trio settled, Harper slipped into the kitchen to place Elaine's cookies on a side tray. From the corner of her eye, she saw Evelyn remove a framed engagement photo of herself and her late husband, Sawyer's father, and place it gently on the table. Elaine returned with a plate of cookies, and the two mothers shared a moment of mutual understanding. Each had lost a husband, each had raised a remarkable child. That unspoken bond lent their conversation a deeper warmth. Evelyn cleared her throat gracefully. "Elaine, I've heard so many wonderful things about you. Sawyer speaks of your devotion to Harper, how you've supported her through her career transition and celebrated every success." Elaine blushed slightly. "Oh, you know how mothers are. But Harper has grown into such a talented young woman. I couldn't be prouder." They sipped tea, nibbled cookies, and moved naturally from polite compliments to shared stories. Evelyn recounted Sawyer's early passion for building things, cardboard forts, model airplanes, while Elaine shared memories of Harper's first art exhibits and her dogged pursuit of design school scholarships. The two women laughed together as they realized how mirrored their parenting journeys had been, raising children who valued creativity and compassion above all. After the laughter died down, Evelyn grew more serious. "I must admit, Elaine, I was nervous about today. But seeing you both here, I know Harper could not be in better hands. You've given her roots and wings. And that's everything a mother can hope for." Elaine's eyes brimmed. "Thank you, Evelyn. That means so much. And I've seen how Sawyer cares for Harper, his thoughtfulness, his support during her tough days. He's a wonderful partner." Evelyn smiled, her gaze drifting to Harper as she and her mother-in-law exchanged a proud glance. "That he is," Evelyn agreed. She took Elaine's hand across the table. "So, let's not delay. Will you entrust your daughter to my son? I believe they belong together." Elaine's voice was thick with emotion as she replied, "It would be my greatest honor to join our families. I trust Sawyer with all my heart, and I know Harper will be cherished. Harper, standing by the sideboard, watched her mother and future mother-in-law clasp hands. A warmth spread through her chest. This was the blessing she'd dreamed of. She stepped forward. Mom, Evelyn, thank you for everything. Your support means the world to Sawyer and me. Evelyn rose and embraced Harper, then turned to Elaine for a group hug. In that embrace, Harper felt the weaving together of two families, two legacies of love and resilience. Over the next hour, they moved seamlessly from engagement talk to wedding plans. Evelyn revealed that she had already researched potential venues in the Oregon wine country, the rose gardens near Willamette Valley she and Sawyer's father once loved. Elaine offered to arrange custom floral designs and family cocktails featuring a signature lavender lime spritzer. They brainstormed guest lists, spoke of grandchildren to come, and toasted to Harper and Sawyer's future. As noon approached, Elaine rose to depart, carrying the now-empty cookie tin as a symbol of sweet accord. Evelyn escorted her to the door. They shared warm embraces and promised to meet again soon, next time with Sawyer and Harper to finalize details. On the porch, the two mothers gave each other a final smile of solidarity. Elaine whispered, "Welcome to the family, Evelyn," and Evelyn replied, "So glad to have you, Elaine." Inside, Harper watched her mother drive away and then retreated to the living room where Evelyn waited. They sat together on a soft cream sofa, framed by windows overlooking blossoming tulips. Evelyn placed a gentle hand on Harper's knee. "My dear, today was important," she said. "Your mother and I both wanted to ensure you two have every blessing and every chance to thrive." Harper nodded, eyes shimmering. "I feel it, Grandma," she said softly. Evelyn laughed. "Call me Evelyn, and I am not your grandmother yet, but soon enough." They shared a laugh, and then fell into comfortable silence, savoring the significance of what had just transpired. Outside, the townhome's garden birds chirped, and the breeze carried faint scents of spring. Harper realized that with her mother's blessing, and with Sawyer's mother by her side, she was stepping into a future more secure and more joyful than she had ever imagined. As afternoon light warmed the room, Harper rose to leave. Evelyn pressed a small silver locket into her hand, a family heirloom Sawyer had always worn. "Keep this close, my dear," Evelyn said. "It's a symbol of enduring love." Harper slipped the locket around her neck, tears of gratitude shining in her eyes. They stepped onto the porch together, Evelyn enveloping Harper in one final embrace. "Go build your dreams and love one another fiercely," she whispered. Harper smiled, her heart full. She climbed into her car and looked back to see Evelyn wave, the afternoon sun haloing her in gentle light. As Elaine pulled into her driveway, Harper's phone buzzed with a message from Sawyer. "How did it go?" Harper typed back, "Perfect." She stepped inside her home, locket resting against her heart, and knew that with family united behind them, she and Sawyer were ready to write the next chapters, together, with every blessing and every ounce of love her mothers could give. The first rays of dawn painted the Willamette Valley in soft pastels as vendors arrived at Lavender Crest Farm to begin setting up for Harper and Sawyer's wedding. Rows upon rows of lavender plants, each meticulously pruned and bursting with fragrant purple blooms, stretched in perfect symmetry across gently rolling hills. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the sweet, herbaceous scent of lavender mixed with newly tilled earth and dewy grass. By mid-morning, the farm had been transformed into a sanctuary of romance. White Adirondack chairs lined gravel pathways, a wooden arbor draped in lavender-gray silk stood at the summit of a gentle incline, and strings of Edison bulbs crisscrossed between maple trees, ready to glow as the sun dipped toward the western horizon. As the morning hustle subsided, Harper Sinclair emerged from the bridal suite, a restored farmhouse loft overlooking the fields, wearing her wedding gown for the first time. The ivory lace bodice fitted snugly across her shoulders, the off-the-shoulder sleeves scalloped in delicate floral patterns. A narrow satin belt cinched her waist, from which cascaded layers of soft tulle, catching the breeze like a cloud of blossoms. Her cathedral-length veil, edged in matching lace, swept behind her like a comet's tail. In her right hand, Harper clutched a bouquet of freshly gathered lavender sprigs, white peonies, and silver-green eucalyptus. Her mother, Elaine Sinclair, hovered nearby, eyes shining with pride and a hint of tears. "You look absolutely radiant," Elaine whispered, smoothing a stray curl at Harper's temple. Beneath her calm exterior, Elaine's heart pounded with the same joy and nervous excitement Harper was feeling. She straightened her daughter's skirt and brushed a fingertip across the lace. "Remember to breathe, darling. Today is about you and Sawyer. Everything else will fall into place." Harper inhaled deeply, the lavender aroma filling her lungs, and nodded. "I know, Mom." She glanced out the farmhouse window, where elves of lavender shimmered in the golden light. She could see Sawyer's family and friends milling around the arbor below. In another hour, she would walk down that aisle and step into her new life as Sawyer Monroe's wife. By 2 p.m., guests had arrived from near and far. A lightweight breeze rustled through the chairs, fluttering program cards printed on recycled paper with lavender sprig motifs. Grandparents settled into front-row seats, clutching small fans to stave off the sun's warmth. College friends wore pastel dresses and crisp linen suits, while Sawyer's cousins laughed together at the back. The musicians, a string quartet, tuned their instruments under a canopy of wisteria. Nearby, servers arranged lemonade stands with pitchers of honey lavender iced tea for guests to refresh themselves before the ceremony. When the ceremony time arrived, Pastor Lou stepped to the arbor and smiled broadly. His presence evoked comforting familiarity. He had led family gatherings for decades. He cleared his throat gently, and the music softened to a hush. Guests rose as Harper's maid of honor, Emily, a childhood friend and fellow designer, opened the barn door and stood to one side, signaling the start of the processional. A violin softly began the melody of Clair de Lune, its notes drifting through the lavender-scented air. Harper's father, Andrew Sinclair, appeared at the barn threshold, dapper in a charcoal suit and lavender tie. He took a deep breath and reached for Harper's elbow as she emerged, the chapel of lavender framing them like columns of living poetry. As father and daughter walked toward the arbor, Harper saw Sawyer's face light up with emotion. His dark eyes sparkled. He brushed back damp hair and straightened his cufflinks. Harper felt her pulse soar as Andrew gently placed her hand in Sawyer's. Andrew gave his daughter one last embrace and stepped back to take his seat. Under the arbor, surrounded by the endless purple fields, Sawyer took Harper's hands in his. The wind whispered through the lavender stalks as if carrying the world's blessings. Pastor Lou spoke softly. "We are gathered here in this sanctuary of nature and love, to witness and bless the union of Harper Sinclair and Sawyer Monroe. May this moment be the foundation for a lifetime of joy, understanding, and unwavering partnership." Sawyer turned to face Harper fully, his expression tender yet earnest. "Harper," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment, "from the day our paths first crossed, you have been my guiding light. Your creativity inspires me, your compassion humbles me, and your unwavering strength makes me believe anything is possible. I promise to cherish you every morning, to laugh with you every evening, and to stand by your side through every challenge. I vow to protect your heart, to honor your dreams, and to grow with you in love and partnership. Just as these lavender fields return year after year, may my love for you endure beyond all seasons." Harper's eyes glistened. She could feel the sincerity in Sawyer's words as if they were gentle caresses. She squeezed his hands and inhaled deeply, the lavender's soothing scent steadying her own trembling heart. Then it was her turn. She lifted her gaze, meeting Sawyer's dark, attentive eyes. "Sawyer Monroe," she said, her voice soft but unwavering. "You have shown me the beauty of shared dreams and the strength of unwavering support. Today, surrounded by these lavender blooms and the people who love us, I pledge to you my heart and my hand. I promise to celebrate your triumphs and comfort you in sorrow, to build a home filled with laughter and understanding, and to be your partner in every sense, creative collaborator, steadfast friend, and devoted spouse. I vow to nurture our love like these fields, tending it with patience, kindness, and joy. With this ring, I bind my life to yours, now and forever. Harper slipped a silver band, etched with a tiny lavender motif, onto Sawyer's ring finger, feeling the cool metal settle around his knuckle. Then Sawyer placed Harper's ring, an elegant white gold band studded with lavender-hued sapphires, upon her finger, its sparkle echoing the joyous tears in her eyes. Pastor Lou smiled and pronounced, "By the power vested in me, and by the love you have expressed, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Sawyer, you may kiss your bride." With a tender flourish, Sawyer lifted Harper's veil and pressed his lips to hers. The quiet fields echoed with a soft rustle of lavender. For an instant, time itself held its breath. Then the guests erupted into applause. The quartet struck up a lively tune, and lavender petals fluttered through the air like gentle confetti. As the couple walked back down the aisle hand in hand, the glow of sunset cast long purple shadows across the fields. They paused at the end of the arch, taking in the sight of family and friends cheering around them. Harper whispered, "We did it," and Sawyer squeezed her hand, his eyes shining with pride and love. The reception awaited at the edge of the lavender fields under a spacious tent draped with white linen and twinkling string lights. Long farm tables were set with burlap runners, mason jars filled with lavender and white roses, and place settings of fine china accented with sprigs of rosemary. A station of local wines from nearby vineyards offered guests an opportunity to explore crisp Pinot Noirs and shimmering Chardonnays. Food stations featured farm-to-table delicacies: herb-crusted lamb from Jackson Creek Ranch, summer squash tartlets, grilled asparagus drizzled with lemon vinaigrette, and lavender-infused honey-glazed carrots that mirrored the fragrance of the surrounding fields. At the head table, Harper and Sawyer sat side by side on an elegantly carved wooden bench, their chairs draped with white fabric and tied with lavender ribbon. Elaine and Evelyn, Harper's and Sawyer's mothers, sat to the right and left, respectively, beaming with pride. They toasted the newlyweds with flutes of sparkling elderflower champagne. Elaine raised her glass first. "To my daughter, Harper," she began, voice thick with emotion, "and to Sawyer, who loves her with all his heart. May your life together be as vibrant and fragrant as these lavender fields." "Cheers!" Evelyn followed, lifting her glass in a steady hand. "To Sawyer's bride and my son," she said, eyes glistening. "May your union be blessed with joy, resilience, and endless love." To Harper and Sawyer. Glasses clinked, and the guests echoed the toast with laughter and heartfelt applause. The best man, Nicholas, then took the microphone. He recounted the couple's journey from their first meeting in Seattle's rainy market to long nights designing and dreaming together. His humorous anecdotes, the taco truck mishap, the sudden downpour at Pike Place, had everyone in stitches. Harper and Sawyer laughed and exchanged playful glances, their earlier nerves washed away in the tide of celebration. Next came the maid of honor, Emily. She spoke of Harper's unwavering creativity and kindness, how Harper's design talents had transformed nonprofits' campaigns and brightened the lives of friends. She presented Harper with a small scrapbook filled with sketches, photographs, and notes from all who had contributed to the wedding. Harper was moved to tears as she flipped through the pages, each memory a testament to the love surrounding them. As twilight deepened into night, guests were invited onto the dance floor for the newlyweds' first dance. The band began a gentle waltz, an acoustic rendition of "Come Away With Me" by Norah Jones. Harper stepped into Sawyer's arms, the lace of her gown whispering against his suit. They moved in harmony, gazing into each other's eyes as if the world around them had slipped away. Lanterns cast a warm glow over the field, and the lavender seemed to lean closer, as though lending its blessing. After the waltz, the band transitioned into upbeat folk tunes, inviting all to join in celebratory reels and line dances. Under the canopy of lights, laughter rose and fell like music in its own right. Children chased sparklers that winked like fireflies against the dark sky, and couples young and old twirled on the floor's wooden planks. Later, under a canopy of stars, guests gathered around a bonfire at the farm's edge. Jugs of mulled cider and glasses of port were passed around, and everyone assembled to share stories and create lasting memories. Harper wrapped her arms around Sawyer's waist from behind, resting her head against his back as they watched their friends sing campfire songs. As the evening's final embers glowed, Sawyer guided Harper back toward the living lavender rose. The fields, now silvered under moonlight, shimmered with a gentle luminescence. He led her to a small wooden swing tied between two saplings, its seat woven with lavender bundles. They sat together, legs brushing, shoulders touching. "Thank you," Harper whispered into the hush, "for every detail, every vow, every moment today." Sawyer turned in the swing to face her, his arm encircling her shoulders. "Thank you for trusting me with your heart," he replied. "Today was perfect because it was ours." They sat in companionable silence, watching moonlight dance on lavender stalks. Each breath they took was infused with the promise of enduring love, just like the lavender fields that would bloom again next year. Their bond would renew with each season. At 10:30, guests began departing, stepping carefully down the gravel paths. Elaine and Evelyn each wrapped Harper's and Sawyer's arms in warm embraces and whispered final blessings. 2 vintage lanterns lit the couple's exit path, and as Harper and Sawyer walked hand in hand toward the waiting classic car adorned with lavender sprigs and a "just married" sign, the final note of the folk band carried softly into the night. As they settled into the back seat of the car, it rolled away under a sky sprinkled with stars. The lavender fields faded into silhouettes against the moonlit horizon, but their scent lingered in the cool air, a fragrant reminder of the day's beauty. Harper leaned her head on Sawyer's shoulder and closed her eyes, feeling the steady hum of the engine and the warmth of his arm around her. "Home?" Sawyer asked softly, his lips brushing her hair. "Home," Harper agreed, opening her eyes to the passing fields. "With you." And as the car carried them down winding country roads, the promise of new chapters and countless lavender-scented mornings awaited them on the horizon. Sawyer Monroe and Harper Sinclair woke to the gentle lapping of water against their Lake Washington shoreline home, sunlight dancing on the ripples outside their bedroom window. The house, a modest craftsman nestled among tall pines and maples, had been their dream during the search for the perfect post-wedding retreat. It sat on a quiet cove, a private dock extending into the glassy water where their kayak and paddleboard waited at dawn. Here, removed from wedding planning and big city bustle, they embraced the simple rhythms of married life. Each morning began the same way. Sawyer rose first, long before Harper's eyes fluttered open. He padded barefoot across hardwood floors to the espresso machine in their open-concept kitchen, measuring beans with practiced precision. The counter, crafted from salvaged driftwood, hosted a small vase of white daisies from the garden. As the machine hissed and steamed, Sawyer loaded artisanal dark roast into a sleek pour-over dripper. He poured piping hot water in slow circles, coaxing rich aromas of dark chocolate and caramel into the air. Harper stirred at the scent, nestling deeper under their soft linen duvet. Minutes later, Sawyer returned with 2 steaming cups, 1 latte for Harper, adorned with a heart of steamed milk, and a bold black coffee for himself. He set them on the nightstand and pressed a light kiss to Harper's forehead. "Good morning," he murmured, voice low and warm. Harper cracked a smile, sleep-soft eyes brightening. "Morning," she replied, wrapping her hands around the porcelain mug. "Thank you." They lingered in bed for a few stolen minutes, sips of coffee, and shared quiet. Beyond the windows, the lake shimmered in silver and sapphire. Dragonflies flitted among reeds, and the occasional loon called across the water. On weekend mornings, their small fluffy dog, Pip, would join them, tail wagging, until Sawyer scooped him into his arms and carried him downstairs for breakfast. By 7:30 a.m., they were both dressed for the day. Harper slipped into yoga leggings and an oversized sweatshirt, while Sawyer donned a flannel shirt and worn jeans. Together they crossed the short dock to their yellow tandem kayak, paddles in hand. Their routine was a gentle glide, Harper in front, Sawyer behind, their strokes synchronized after months of practice. They cut through the mist rising off the lake, visibility soft and muted, as mallards and great blue herons drifted away at their approach. For 20 minutes, they circled the cove, breathing in pine-scented air and exchanging contented silence. Back on land, they returned the kayak to its rack and headed inside for breakfast at the kitchen island. Harper prepared avocado toast on sourdough from their favorite local bakery, drizzled with olive oil and red pepper flakes. Sawyer cracked eggs into a bowl, whisked them quickly, and scrambled them with chives he had grown in window boxes. They sat together on stools, feet swinging as Pip watched hopefully for drop crumbs. After breakfast came the daily ritual of planning. Harper sorted through any client updates the day she assisted Sawyer with his freelance interior design consultations and updated their shared calendar. Sawyer proofed her typographic mock-ups for a neighborhood coffee shop rebrand and sent off invoicing for a commissioned mural he was painting in downtown Kirkland. Their work-from-home arrangement was seamless. 2 desks in the lofted office, sunlit by large windows overlooking the water. The occasional honk of passing boats or distant lawnmower kept them grounded in the rhythms of lakeside living. At midday, they often took a break for a spontaneous lakeside picnic. Harper whipped up a quick couscous salad with feta, cherry tomatoes, cucumber, and basil from their herb garden. Sawyer packed it in insulated containers, along with sparkling mineral water and leftover shortbread cookies Ellie had shipped as a housewarming gift. They spread a blanket on the dock, sat side by side, and leaned back against pillows, feet dangling over the water. They spoke of small dreams, planting a vegetable patch behind the garage, hosting a summer barbecue for friends next month, or adopting a second rescue dog for Pip to play with. Afternoons found them absorbed in separate pursuits that often converged in laughter or shared admiration. Harper worked on her side business designing custom wedding invitations. Her latest project featured delicate hand-painted lavender sprigs reminiscent of their farm wedding. Sawyer spent hours in the garage-turned studio at the back of the property, crafting custom shelving units or painting a new canvas inspired by the valley's wildflowers. Whenever Harper passed by, Sawyer would brush a streak of paint from his cheek and invite her to make a brushstroke of her own, infusing their home with collaborative artistry. Their evenings were reserved for simple pleasures. On Tuesdays, they gathered with 3 close couples for a rotating potluck. Everyone brought 1 course, and they dined al fresco at a long farmhouse table under a canopy of string lights. Wednesday nights were reserved for drive-in movies. They curled up in the back of their SUV with blankets and popcorn. Pip nestled between them and watched classics on the big screen. Thursdays, they cooked themed dinners together. One week it was homemade sushi, the next it was tapas with sangria. Friday evenings were sacred date nights. They dressed up and walked hand in hand to the Boathouse restaurant down the road, dining on fresh-caught salmon and locally sourced produce as the sun set over the lake. On weekends, they often hosted friends for leisurely brunches, frittatas and mimosas at the wooden picnic table, or hosted quiet writing sessions on the dock, where Sawyer typed out his new interior design blog post and Harper worked on calligraphy for wedding signage. They supported each other's creativity. Harper offered color palettes for Sawyer's room designs, and Sawyer provided layout advice for Harper's invitation suites. Their home office walls were lined with Polaroids of collaborative projects, hand-painted murals, plant shelves, invitation proofs, each a testament to their shared life's work. Evenings ended the same way they began, with coffee, or for variety, chamomile tea, and the 2 of them cozied up on the sectional sofa, covered in a chunky knit throw. They read side by side, Harper devouring design magazines and cookbooks, Sawyer immersed in art history tomes or thriller novels. Sometimes they simply talked, reviewing the day's highlights, planning for future adventures, trips to Vancouver Island, weekend drives to Mount Rainier, or the dream of someday camping under the northern lights. Before retreating to their bedroom, they tended their small fire pit in the backyard. Logs crackled, casting dancing shadows on the house's cedar siding. They toasted marshmallows, toasted each other's company, and toasted the adventure that lay beyond the horizon. Pip curled at their feet, content. Finally, they climbed the stairs to their bedroom, hand in hand. Harper changed into soft pajamas embroidered with tiny lavender sprigs. Sawyer slipped into a worn t-shirt bearing the name of his college fraternity. They dimmed the bedside lamps and drew back the curtains to reveal a canopy of stars reflected in the lake's still surface. The night air, cool and fragrant, drifted through the open windows. They slid under the duvet, closing the space between them. Sawyer wrapped his arm around Harper's waist, pulling her close. Harper rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart, a sound that had become her favorite lullaby. "I love this life with you," Harper whispered, her voice hushed against the hush of nighttime. "And I love you," Sawyer responded, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Every day, in every way. They shared a soft kiss, sealing their day's end with the same ease and affection that had carried them through hours of laughter, work, and quiet companionship. As they drifted into sleep, the lavender scent from the fields beyond mingled with the promise of tomorrow, another day of simple joys, shared dreams, and the quiet, enduring happiness they had found together by the lake. And that brings us to the end of today's story on Truistery Vibes. Don't forget to leave a comment with a quote or moment that touched you the most. Your words give our team the motivation to keep creating more heartfelt stories. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again soon.